Today we're moving on to the news release, formerly or commonly known as the press release. And also in the 21st century, it's called the media release because obviously press was something that was considered newspaper oriented, and now we're moving forward. If you haven't already, pause this and grab the news release planning worksheet that you have in Blackboard so we can go along with it. There's some key components and I want you to be able to look at it. Either look at it on a different screen, or you could print it too. There's at the top are the questions that you should be asking yourself anytime that you write a press release or a news release. And then secondly, at the bottom are what I call the reporter's formula, which is the who, what, when, where, why, how. So those are the things that you need to consider and to make sure that they are implanted in each press release or news release that you create. And that's what you're going to be doing shortly, is writing your own media release. Some other criteria: make sure that you also know the subject of the message. So why are you writing this? You know, somebody gave you an idea and they gave you a bunch of information like I am doing, and then you have to figure out what the subject of the message is. Is it specific to a target audience? What's the purpose of the organization that you're now you have to think that you're employed at this institution or organization or corporation. You can't read it as though you're a student or someone just reading this, because you have to process this and go deeper into this. So what's the purpose of the organization? What's the objective of the message? And what is really key here? If you wanted the reader to take something away, what would it be? Other things to consider, obviously, is you need to write it in Associated Press style. You need to answer the reporter's formula, which is the 5 W's and the 1 H. Answer 2 important questions, and I got this in grad school, which is, why do I care? So what? So you have to think about what's the person going to take away after reading this? Big deal. So what? What's important? And then just the same rules that you have in good writing and journalistic news stories. Some of the things within the template and the news release, you have 7 components, and we're going to go over a few of these. They're also in week 5, 6 Blackboard folder, so make sure that you have that available to you too. The news release has 7 components. The general template, which means, you know, if you're working for a particular company, they're probably going to have their logo, they have a boilerplate kind of way that they have it's set up. The headline is there, it's got to be eye-catching. The date line, so that we need to know when the date is. If it's from 2018, it's not news anymore, right? The lead paragraph, that's where the information that you really want to get out to about your organization has to be in the lead. Any extra information goes in 5, the body, and then anything extra that you have, if you want a little description about the organization and who to contact. For example, it would be really bad not to have the contacts if you were running a race and somebody had a question. And these are also in the chapter that I've given you. So that's in the Wilcox book 5.1. Now let's try to do this hyperlink and see if it goes to where I intended it to. Okay, so here you go. This is on the UFIS University webpage, so it's going to have its link, or its look, I'm sorry. So it's got the standard way that it looks for release. UAFS hosts blood drive, and it's not the sexiest headline in the world, but it gets to the point. You know exactly what's going on. Here's the crux of the information, and again, you see that this is rather lengthy, but that's because it's on our webpage and we have that luxury. If we were giving this to the news media, chances are that they would just have the first 2 paragraphs. So that's where you really want the meat or the details of your information, because you're probably not going to find out about free t-shirts and snacks via 4029. So the University of Arkansas Fort Smith will host its first blood drive of the fall semester. It gives the time. So you know where it is, who is it? It's the University of Fort Smith, and yes, the UA Fort Smith, and it's now, going on Tuesday and Wednesday, September 15th and 16th, you know where it is. So if somebody wanted to give blood, they can go there. It's got the actual locations, and then you also get the antibody test. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so you have the headline, the dateline, the lead paragraph. You know what's going on. The body is all of this. And if you want to sign up for an appointment, you just go to student activities. That's important. I would probably have that closer to the top. And the reason I say that is if you're the news media, now you have to go find out, how to do this. And you don't have a lot of time, if you're the news media trying to do this, or you want to do it as quickly as possible. Okay, everybody's welcome, blah, blah, blah. And then we know it's Ginny McCoy took the picture, but we don't know anything else. So it's an okay news release. It's got a headline, a lead paragraph, boilerplate about the organization is missing, and you really don't have any context in the traditional sense. It's right here. And it's separated enough so that you can see it, but it's not easy peasy. Okay, so moving on. I do want to show you the ArcBest one also. That was a great example. So the basic components are things that we said already. Use of the template, gives a name, gives its logo and contact. If there's an issue with embargo, in case you don't know what embargo means, that means that we are sending this out now, but you can't tell anybody. So when it comes to the date, you can broadcast it or put it in the newspaper or put it on social media. If it's embargoed now and the news media shares it when it's supposed to come out in a week, chances are they're never going to tell you information again. So it's a camaraderie, it's a quid pro quo kind of thing that we trust you enough. I'll give you an example of embargo. If you remember when Blake Shelton came here a year or two ago with his new whiskey, I don't really remember, but he had a liquor and he was going to the plant that makes his whiskey, and then he had a little concert downtown. Well, everybody knew about that months in advance, because obviously that needs to be planned. And the media knew that, the press knew that, radio stations knew that, TV knew that, but it was embargoed. So even though they knew it 2 or 3 weeks prior to the event, they had to sit on it. They were not allowed to give that information out, even to their family, if you're doing your job well. So embargo means you send the advanced material to the media with the understanding that they won't publish it or broadcast it until the official unveiling. It's usually to launch a new product like Blake Shelton's whiskey, some sort of change in leadership, etc. People know about those things in advance, but they just don't say. The basic components of a news release also include the headline, any kind of characteristics or writing format. You have to devoid of hype. You don't want to make it too, you don't want to make it a lie. And subheads can be included, but are not the most appropriate. With regard to the writing format, you want to make it 10 words or less, a bold-face font, and a larger font than the actual text. Some things with regard to the news release lead. Basic details in 2 or 3 sentences. You want people to get to it. Boom. Should entice the reader to read the rest of it. So, this is where the interesting parts of it, because you might have a very long story. Focus on the most newsworthy or interesting points, because again, it might get deleted. Some of it might get deleted. So you want the up top. The things that are most interesting. Keep in mind the reporter's formula, which is who, what, where, when, why, and how. Some common mistakes is giving out too much information. If you're into technology, or if you're into gaming and people don't understand gaming, then you're going to have to dial it down and explain it. And don't be overly flowery. Be more objective. With regard to the body of the text, so these are the reasons for using that you use the inverted pyramid structure. Okay, so you start out with the biggest information on the top, and then it keeps going down and down. And the reasons for using the inverted pyramid structure is if the editorial reporter doesn't find something interesting the first few lines, you can cut back. Now, quite frankly, they don't have enough time to be doing this, so the more information you give them in the proper format, the happier that they will be, and the more of your media releases you'll be seeing on the news or in the newspaper. The three parts of the inverted pyramid are the opening paragraph or the lead paragraph, any additional information that seems to be helpful, and the least important information is down at the bottom. Like, it's nice to have, but it's not a need to have. That may be where you talk about the company some more. And that would be called boilerplate description of the organization. So you probably have it in all of your media releases. So the purpose of the boilerplate, which is just, it's like a paragraph or 3 sentences about the organization or the company. It provides the general purpose, it provides the basic information about the company, and it gives reporters or whomever's reading this, that you're sending it to the media, some idea about the organization's purpose and size. Okay, so if it's Archibest versus Fort Smith Coffee, that's going to be a different weight. The same copy is used as a standard addition to all news releases. That's why it's called boilerplate. Information that can be included is the market position. So is your company part of the NASDAQ, or is it just a local company? What's their aspiration? What's their size? Where are they located? Do they have any social media or websites that you can include? Other things, this is 7 out of the 7, the news release context. Again, it's really helpful that people can ask questions to somebody. So, particularly if you want your story to be ran in the media. So last item on a news release is usually for journalists and bloggers to get in touch with a person for any additional information. Maybe it's a Blake Shelton concert that they want tickets to. That would be cool. Okay, it is often claimed that news releases are the backbone of a public relations campaign. Think about it. Do you agree or disagree? A few more things. The objective in this chapter, this Wilcox chapter, is to describe the different news release formats. We've gone over some really basic ones. The traditional one, which is more of the reporter's formula. It's the who, what, where, when, why, how. It's usually double-spaced, text-only document on a regular sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11. The margins should be like you're used to, 2 inches from the top and 1.5 on each side and the bottom. Other things to consider are that you use 10 or 12 point font. You usually use sans serif, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now. Serif would be the Times Roman. Don't split sentences or paragraphs between spaces. Place that slug line, and when you're done, you do what you guys call the hashtag. You do 3 of those in a row, and that's how you know that you're done. Okay, so because as a company, you might be sending out 6 news releases in the same day. Now, I don't know if it's just one giant 6-page news release or if it's 6 individual from the same company. The 3 hashtags, also known as the #, 3 in a row, indicate that that's done. And never hyphenate a word at the end of a line. Lastly, online. You'll probably be doing a lot of that during your career. So the characteristics and guidelines include on that is you can single space it. It's about 200 to 250 words. So when you're doing abstracts or reading abstracts, for example, for other classes in those peer-reviewed journals that you're so fond of, you might have noticed that abstracts are 200 to 250 words. That's perfect. Think that. Emphasis is on brevity. Bullet points are okay. Links to the organization's website, etc. Hyperlinks are wonderful. And then again, you want to use search engine optimization. You'll use that word a lot in your career. Search engine optimization. It's the process of selecting and using keywords. It's to make the content easily retrievable. And then you use 1 or 2 keywords within the headline and make sure that they appear in the first 65 to 80 characters. So you use it in the keywords, and then you also use it in the first sentence or two. Lastly, the multimedia news release, not a lot of difference. We're thinking YouTube, something like that. You include embedded photos, videos, audios, links to other sites. So now when you're watching 4029 or KFSM and you're watching it on your phone, for example, you'll get to read an article, and then it also links to, or there's also embedded in it a video. That's called multimedia news release. You can also increase the search engine rankings of the release by driving targeted traffic to the organization's website. That's a big key. If you go work for a company, they want you to drive targeted traffic to the organization's website so you can expand the audience beyond the traditional media outlets.